My parents evicted me when I was in high school, then came crawling back and did something worse. I'm 30 male, and my parents didn't really want me as a child. I was an only child, and pretty much an accidental pregnancy from what relatives have told me, as my parents claimed that they were going to be child-free when they were married. Now, my childhood was initially good, but I think after I started growing out of the cute and adorable phase, my parents were less inclined to spend time with me.
I only want cute Pokemon babies.
They both worked, and they had their own business that they started together. Their business was their life, and I was always second fiddle to it. Sorry, OP. Any other close members of the family, like my grandparents, lived states away, and I barely knew anything about them until I was an adult. So I had no other family around my entire childhood. I was practically raised by TV and my school teachers. My own birthdays by the time I was a teenager were often spent without my parents, as they just give me some money and tell me to go out and buy something I wanted.
OP, I want to get you a birthday present now.
It was more or less the same with Christmas, and sometimes even back to school shopping.
Oh my God. This kid has
basically just like, hey, could you just parent yourself? Your existence is a nuisance to me. I'm sorry. We wouldn't have even had a Christmas tree after I turned 10 if it weren't for the fact that I convinced my parents to buy a fake one that I could build up and then take down every year. If I were to describe my parents, think of them as those people who always wear black, drink lots of wine, and look down their noses at people.
I'm imagining them wearing like turtlenecks.
Yes.
And like glasses. I'm like,
the guy from Ratatouille.
yes, Anton Ego.
That guy.
That guy.
Our resident Ratatouille expert.
Yeah, dude. I watch Ratatouille
clutch.
like every night.
Yes.
I don't
literally.
like food. I love it, but I don't love it. I don't swallow.
This is on the record. I think that is the star
impression.
The star impression by Samuel Donner.
This is what I come for.
I'm laying it down. And the last time I saw my parents, they looked and acted the same way. Although my father was wearing a toupee now.
Hey, Baldy. Hey, is it getting cold up there?
Hey, I want to see if I have something in my teeth. Lean over. Can I use your head? Woo. When I turned 16, I asked my parents if I could work part-time for their business. And they just told me they had no open positions.
You're kidding me.
Imagine like he just gets an email back. They're like, we regret to inform you that there's no open position. Just like the HR like boilerplate shit.
Yo, they couldn't even give him a job. The business is their life and they couldn't even give this kid a job.
Have him get coffee.
Yeah, just
simple.
Have him do something.
God. They may as well have just come out and said, we don't want you here. After I turned 18, my parents told me that since I was an adult, they expected me to move out as soon as I was able.
No way.
God, just get to know better.
Hate him.
I was working part-time because I was still in high school and I didn't have anywhere near enough saved for college. And
they're kicking him out while he's in transition. Oh my God.
Literally, like what? And shortly after high school ended, my parents told me to pack up and get out.
This is heartbreaking. Guys, if you have any like parents kicking you out stories, I'd love to hear it. Please put it in the comments.
If this has happened to someone,
yeah,
I want to know.
This is tragic.
Yeah, this is insane. They even had the audacity, this is insane, to get an official eviction notice that gave me 30 days and everything.
Yo!
Woo!
Squatter's rights, though. He's been there a long enough time, so he should be
I've
fine.
been here 18 years.
Yeah, you think you could kick me out now? No way.
That's right. And they didn't even help me move. I had to get help from a friend's dad who owns a truck. You got to outsource your parents. Go on Upwork.com and hire a freelance father.
Dad, like, yo, I'm sorry, man. Like, this sucks.
That would, yeah. I mean, we would probably, it's like, hey, Bobby's basically doesn't have parents. Like, can we just like help him move his bed and his gumballs from all of his birthdays? The stale, uneaten gumballs.
Unchewed. You're saving them for a rainy day.
Yeah. I ended up renting a crappy apartment and working retail. I had no real life experience and no time for college. Then after a few months, I got fired because my manager legitimately had it out for me and wrote me up for just stupid things. OP cannot win here.
Oh my God.
I don't even remember what they were, but I wasn't the only one. And I called corporate about it. So did a few other people. Corporate looked into it and they fired the manager.
Oh, shit.
They fired him for a variety of reasons, not many of which I actually know since they kept it quiet, but someone told me that theft of cigarettes was part of it. Okay, then. And the manager was a chain smoker. Corporate refused to hire me and said they'd only change my record so it would say I was laid off and not fired.
What did they have against OP? He didn't do anything wrong.
Literally, like, God. I ended up going broke pretty fast because I was terrible at managing my own money and I couldn't find steady employment. So I lost my apartment and went begging back to my parents for help. But they refused.
He's begging.
And it's your own child. Like,
and you have a business.
Like, he couldn't just like sleep on the couch if there's no, I mean, they have a room because he had a room. Like,
yeah,
it's so ridiculous. So ridiculous. I ended up homeless and living out of a tent in someone's backyard in winter.
No.
Like, it couldn't have been spring. God.
He's freezing his ass off in this tent.
Actually, my friends had all moved back to college, some in other states, and I was a broke kid taking whatever work I could to, quote, stay alive.
Man's like working the street corner.
God. Putting on a skimpy dress and just
giving
walking out
handies.
those pumps.
Hey, $5 handies.
$5. My salvation came when one of the neighbors found out that I was living out of a tent and offered to take me in for a little while, so I literally didn't freeze.
How do the neighbors have more sympathy than
The own parents?
the parents?
Insane. They helped me to badger my parents into telling me how to get in contact with my other estranged family members.
Right, because he has family that his parents have deprived him of.
Literally. So insane, right? My parents didn't want to say. My guess is out of fear for being judged for throwing their son out the way they did.
No shit.
Yup, as you would deserve. But they eventually coughed up to info and gave me a list of contact details. And they then told me not to bother them ever again.
Why do they want to cut him off so bad?
It's so stupid. Like,
also, like, selfishly, like, don't you want someone to take over the business or something? You know, you built this thing up.
I think they've just built up such a resentment. They literally just want to torture him at this point. I called my grandparents from my father's side of the family, and they were actually very surprised and happy to hear from me because they hadn't seen me since I was an infant. And I'm their only grandchild. My grandparents, after finding out the situation, flew me out to live with them as soon as they could and basically adopted me. My parents didn't even see me off to the airport despite being invited to. It's tragic. I had zero contact with them for pretty much a decade. A whole decade of not talking to your parents. Can you imagine?
He's like 28 now. Wow.
Insane. My grandparents said that they despised my parents for treating me so poorly and legally disowned them by striking them out of their wills.
Oh, so OP's gonna like inherit everything.
Exactly. It's unclear if he gets all of what they had, but yeah, at a bare minimum, his parents will get nothing in their wills. My parents, I'm told, were not happy to hear about that. I can imagine. But also said it didn't really matter because they were plenty well off and didn't need anything from my grandparents. Oh, how wrong that statement would turn out to be.
I'm so excited for the tides to turn.
Let's bring it back up. We've been in the nosedive.
Yeah.
Pilot, pull it back, please.
I'm getting in the plane. I'm strapping in.
After a year of living with my grandparents, I was able to start affording community college. I got an associate's degree, a decent job thanks to a recommendation from my grandpa, and eventually my grandparents offered to sell me their house so they could retire in Arizona. I was sad to see them go, but I happily bought the house, and the thing is, they sold it to me at 1/3 of its value.
So he's getting a deal.
Big deal. Big deal. And I'll have it paid off in just a few years at this point. My job has me going on the road periodically, so I can end up away from home for weeks at a time. Not that I mind the travel. I have no pets, no girlfriend or anything like that. So, you know.
Opie has nothing.
Opie has literally nothing.
In 10 years, Opie, you got to get yourself something.
Seriously, buy, I don't know, like go to a dance class or get a dog.
Get a dog.
Start
doing salsa.
With. Seriously, yeah.
My cousin started doing salsa, but he meets women that way.
Uh-oh. That's smart.
Yeah. He's a salsa teacher actually right now.
Oh, dude, that's how you really do. Move your hips like this, mommy.
Spicy salsa.
Spicy. But OP says he wouldn't have time for girlfriends or anything. He has no time for these salsa classes.
What else is he doing?
So he's on the road, man. Getting that
for his job. What's his job? Do we know?
We don't know. He's
working the street
out
corners,
there, you know. But also, I don't want to stay a lonely bachelor forever. Mm-hmm. But then, one day in late 2020, I come home after being away for 2 weeks, only to find a strange large white van I do not recognize in my driveway.
What is this van?
I was getting ready to call the police when I noticed it. The van had a logo from my parents' business on it.
Wait, so his parents' business van is in the driveway of his house that his parent is in the driveway of his grandparents' house that they gave to him.
After 10 years of
no
not talking to him,
contact.
after saying,
Yo.
don't bother us
Why
anymore.
are they there?
We're about to find out. I felt the dread. Yes, my parents were there. They had broken in somehow and were living out of my home.
No.
Funny, remember when you said
Why
you
are
wanted
they
nothing
living out of the home? And yeah, you say you want nothing to do with the OP, and yet you are living in his house.
You know what's doing something? Living in my house. Unavoidable.
Unannounced.
Like the most unannounced ever. Literally breaking in because he wasn't there.
What is their business? The white van business.
You know? Candy.
We don't want our
Stranger
child,
danger.
so we're luring other children into our van.
Maybe what if there was actually some crazy backstory and then they were like CIA agents that had to be like what is it, you know, when they move you and they change your identity and
They're
actually
undercover.
They're undercover and people are looking for them and they were like the CIA director was like, all right, you can keep your kid, but you have to make him hate you so he'll run away and not be in contact with you because once they find out, they will try to kill him.
Bro.
So they just had to like pretend to hate him.
Yeah,
but
they actually loved him, and it was the hardest thing they ever had to do, but they couldn't blow their cover.
Except that is not what this story is. Alternate universe, maybe. A fanfic, maybe. So his parents had broken in somehow and were living out of the home, and they had the nerve to greet me like they were all buddy-buddy the moment I walked in.
What do you say? You haven't seen them in 10 years.
And they're just like, hey, and it's
Great
like,
to see you.
what?
Why are you
kidding me?
here?
I told them to get the hell out, and they refused because it was grandma and grandpa's house. I said, it was not their house anymore. They had sold it to me when they were tired. Take that.
Yeah.
They'd have known that if they were in any way involved in my life. But they threw me to the wolves 10 years prior with no life experience. Bro, if there's a mic drop moment, that is the one.
Can he like just drag him out?
I mean, I guess he could just
like physically just toss him out.
Just, you know,
hire a security guard.
Actually, that's a great idea. Like just hire, like you're making all this money, you don't got anything to spend it on. Hire someone to basically antagonize them. Like, you are touching my client's cereal bowl. You have been designated 1 spoon. If you use any spoon other than that, I am authorized to use force.
I'm scared.
See?
You would be a great. You would kill it. Just put on
if
that
my
voice.
parents just were estranged and all this, I could torture them effectively. That's what we've learned today. Oh goodness. So we argued. They refused to leave, and my father told me it was his parents' house first. And that meant he and my mother had the right to live there if they wanted to.
Why doesn't OP just like call grandparents and be like, yo, hey, kick him out?
That's a great question. He called someone else. I walked right into my bedroom, locked the door, and called the police.
Let's go. Get the popo on the case.
Guns blazing. When the cops showed up, they were of no help. My parents claimed to them that they had already been there long enough to have residency, which was a complete lie. But I had no cameras to prove that they weren't there for the month required.
Damn.
Tragic. My neighbors also had no cameras. So it was my word against my parents over how long they've been there, and they were claiming squatters' rights.
Yeah, squatters' rights is crazy.
Just insane. Of your, like, if I'm the police officer and someone's like, they're like, oh, I'm claiming squatters' rights in my son's house, I'm like, okay, something's wrong here.
Yeah. Like there's something amiss. Also, squatters' rights is like legitimately the craziest thing ever. There was this guy that was coming from Iran, and then like there was like I think the revolution, and he was staying in I think LAX or some airport. I forgot which airport, and he couldn't go back to his home country, but he didn't have a valid passport anymore because the country dissolved, and so he couldn't leave the airport. And he ended up just living in the airport and got squatters' rights, and then they couldn't kick him out. And then all of the people just like loved like hanging out with him so much that he was able to live in the airport for like 20 years, and then he just died.
That's insane.
And there was a movie made about it called Terminal with Tom Hanks.
Well, that makes sense because that's a story that deserves a movie. Wow. Okay. Dang. We should read the script sometime. I don't care. Imagine we just start reading the scripts. That's funny.
Man goes to haunted hotel and becomes axe murderer.
So they told the police that they had a verbal rental agreement with me and that I was trying to illegally evict them for no reason. God, my mother even put on the waterworks when saying that. But the police told me it was a family dispute and to file an eviction with the courts to get them out.
So OP can't do shit.
Can't do shit. And it gets worse. This was in 2020. Getting the court to do anything took longer. Meanwhile, my parents are squatting in my house, rent-free, rubbing it in my face.
Why are they rubbing it in the face? Like, keep the peace at least.
Like, they just want to torture this kid. Like, there's no other way around it. From the information I got of them, their business went bankrupt and they sold off almost everything they had to cover their debts. All they had left was the white van and a few personal belongings.
Wow. So all that money really wasn't there.
Exactly. So they expected to live in my house rent-free for the foreseeable future. Just for eternity, maybe, you know?
I feel like they
A
could
light
have like
eternity.
asked or something, or just try to repair the relationship first before being assholes.
So insane. They were both working. Both of them got new jobs. My father's a delivery driver and my mom is a sales associate. They were making money and the only things they contributed to were water and electricity. And when I say that, they just handed me a $100 bill.
Oh my God.
That ain't it. That ain't it. Anytime I tried to talk about rent, they just said I owed it to them because I lived rent-free for 18 years.
Oh my God. I hate that comeback.
Bro,
I hate it.
The worst. The worst. Then threatened to stop helping with all of the utilities altogether.
Okay,
like,
so even what little they were paying, they're like, nah.
Not the Ben Franklin, like the one $100 bill.
Franklin.
God. I was so at my wit's end, I ended up calling my grandparents to explain the situation to them.
What did the grandparents say?
Which he should have been done from the beginning. Yeah. They were very unhappy and spoke with my parents. But my parents said that they had the right to stay in my home and they refused to budge. My grandpa told me that he was sorry that it had come to this and that if they hadn't have sold the house, my parents wouldn't have invaded. I told them not to worry. I'd already filed for a legal eviction and they would be gone soon enough.
Also, it's crazy that like these grandparents, like I like, and they must be so disappointed that they raised such a shit child.
Literally. Like, can you imagine, like, you have your children, they have a child, and then it's like they're doing this? You're like, what?
I would be so embarrassed.
I literally, like, I raised you.
Yeah, I thought I raised you right.
Like, crazy.
Obviously not.
Obviously not. And my parents already knew that they were on borrowed time. I made sure to say it in earshot of my parents too. They responded with the silent treatment. Now, my father was away most of the time, 6 days a week on his delivery vehicle.
Why does he just lock him out?
Again, I think more he could pull some Home Alone hijinks.
Yeah.
Like just put grease on their like milk jug or their like pans or something,
or like put thumbtacks on their seats.
There we go. Like, I feel like if I was in this situation, I would do 1,000,001 things.
Oh yeah,
to torture them.
I would do I would do the old I would do plastic wrap on the toilet.
Oh, that's
so you pee
smart.
and just
that's
go
smart.
straight
I was gonna say I'm just gonna take a dookie and just never flush it. Especially like if they have like their own bathroom, I would always go in there and never flush it.
Yeah.
And my mom basically tried to take over the house in her spare time. She demanded that I let her rearrange the living room and even tried to force me to give her and my father the master bedroom because they were my parents and they deserved better.
Audacity.
The sheer audacity, bro. It's just insane. I vetoed all those things and said they don't deserve better and stop trying to act like I owe them anything. I didn't ask to be born. And it's a normal obligation for parents to simply raise their own child, which it is.
True.
And all they were doing was asserting their dominance to try to keep me from kicking them out. But finally, after 4 months into early 2021, I managed to take my parents to court over the squatting. We only needed to go to court because they fought the eviction and tried to gaslight me into rescinding it. They tried to use the fact that it was formerly my grandparents' house and that they were giving me $100 a month as some sort of leverage.
No.
God. But there was no real rental agreement. They were smart enough to not try to forge one, as that would have been fraud. That would have been hilarious, though, if they got caught for
and
that.
then they just got like
20 years or something. So the judge ordered that they be out in a maximum of 30 days and have zero claim on the house. Nice.
Oh, yeah.
After court, they confronted me and said they were disappointed in me for kicking out their own flesh and blood, which, funny enough, rings a bell.
Huh.
Who would kick out their own flesh and blood?
That last.
Wow.
Huh?
Wow. I couldn't help but laugh and call them hypocrites to their face.
Yes, total hypocrites.
Because that's exactly what they did to me without a care in the world for me. They had no love for me, and I have no love for them. I owe them nothing. They just tried to act like everything that was mine was theirs, but they had no right to call themselves my parents because they never acted like it.
True.
Whew. I called them a pair of snobby, lying narcissists to their face and told them to get their affairs in order because they already know I will not hesitate to call the police after the 30 days are over. My dad looked angry. My mom just stopped saying anything. They left, but not without a lot of tension. The final month was spent either guilt tripping me or trying to make me change my mind or completely ignoring me.
He is not changing his mind. He's ready to
Absolutely
just kick him
not.
out.
I put up a calendar in the living room and checked off each day with a big red circle on the final day. I still remember that final day of March 2nd. My parents waited till the exact day to have everything packed.
Why do they want to, like, I would be not interested in having like that much drama in my living situation. I would just leave.
God, so insane. But they broke.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't gotten anywhere else.
Homeless.
Since they were so convinced that they would convince me to let them stay, they didn't bother to try and find an apartment and had to do it last second. My mom found a tiny, crappy studio in the next city over because it was the only thing they could find. It looked a lot like what I had to do when I was 18.
Yo, the comeuppance is amazing.
That's
like this
right.
is going full circle.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Karma, bitch.
Karma. Quite ironic. I drove my mom to see it once, and it was terrible. The walls were baby barf green. The carpet was 20 years old, and the only window was a view of a brick wall.
Ew.
Nice. The walls did little to stop the noise from the neighbors. They were already fighting loudly just in the time that I was there.
Nice. Okay, so this is a crap hole apartment.
Absolutely dumpy. My mother went out of her way to try and give me the sad look while dropping hints that I should be feeling guilty that I was reducing them to live in such a place.
Yo, OP's celebrating right now.
Oh.
Like, oh, the wicked witch and king are dead.
I would bring like a backpack and just have like the party
Yeah.
thing and just pop champagne
Or like the tiniest violin.
I'd be getting lit. Or take it a step further, do kind of like a flash mob where the mom walks in and she's like crying, and then you have like a bunch of
30
people
people
burst in.
coming.
It's like, celebrate good times, come on. And then you make it a TikTok and post.
I pranked my asshole mom with a flash mob.
Yeah. I danced on my mom's tears. They signed the lease right away and moved what little stuff they had into it. They also ended up demanding my queen-size bed, dresser, and flat screen TV. But I told them
No.
But Opie said just to take them because I no longer wanted them in my house after 5 months.
Wow.
They looked at me like I was treating them like they were diseased.
They
and demanded
are
nothing more.
diseased.
Honestly, yes, they really are, though. The moment they had to leave for good, I started changing the locks on all the doors.
Smart.
All their stuff was out, and they'd spent their last night in the guest room. They watched me ripping out the doorknobs to replace them as they were getting into the van. They said nothing, and I said nothing, but they just sat and watched while I put in the new doorknobs. Then they finally left. I breathed a massive sigh of relief the second that van went down the road. I figured karma would come back eventually, but they could live under a rock for all I cared.
OP is mad.
But here's the thing. My grandparents did hear from them recently. They called to brag about a new business they had that seemed to be doing well.
No.
Yes.
Fuck.
Yes. Seems they were making good money and back to looking down on others. I'd already Googled their new business. Seems to be doing pretty well.
Snobby fucks.
Exactly. They put me through being homeless, squatted for next to free rent for months in my house, then went back to being snobby, wine-drinking business people they used to be. If karma's real, it's taking too damn long.
Dude, I hate that they get a happy ending. I hate it. I hate it.
If you thought the story of this mom was crazy, check out this one where a Karen steals a blind woman's dog.